and welcome to the Love How Deep podcast with Brian and Heather Mayer. Our purpose is to equip married couples like you with resources that rely on the transformative power of God's Word to strengthen your relationship. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Love How Deep podcast. Brian and I are so happy that you're here, that you are listening. And honestly, we pray, and we actually just prayed before we started, that your marriages would be strengthened as you seek to put God first in your life, in your marriage, and that His Word is the foundation of your marriage so that you can become stronger.
Amen to that.
Yeah, that's what we want for y'all. That's why we do this.
That's right. And we did something that I think strengthened our marriage over the weekend.
I think so too.
It was something that we hadn't done in a while.
No, we talked about doing it.
Yeah.
But then I think it just goes to the back burner like so many other things.
Mm-hmm.
But with this being our 19th wedding anniversary a couple of weeks ago, we're just now finally getting to celebrate it. We chose to do a food tour for this that's done in our city, the city of Richmond.
Right.
So downtown.
Yeah.
And we got to learn some history that we didn't know. We got to taste a lot of incredible food and meet some amazing people that we kind of connected with. So
and I keep hearing people calling our town a foodie town.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really true or that's just we're kind of prideful.
I think it's a foodie town.
There is some good food here.
We have some great restaurants. Yeah. And the cool thing is that all of the places that we visited, they're not chains. They're locally owned and operated.
Right.
And they locally source as many of their ingredients as they can. So I think it's just building up the community even more. And the flavors are amazing. Everything we tasted, it was like a flavor bomb.
That's right.
So good.
Right. As Guy Fieri on Food Network says, it's Flavor Town.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes.
So that was a lot of fun. We went to a park, Libby Park, overlooked the James River. Yeah. And it was very peaceful. And
it was.
Talked about some goal setting, which we've mentioned on the podcast, I think, before.
Yeah, we've got some.
It's a fantastic day.
I think some free resources, and we've talked about it in the blogs and some other things, the anniversary goal setting that we do. So that was really enjoyable to look back at the things that we did do and reminisce and talk about the things that were on the list that we never got to and why was that. Mm-hmm. Maybe we did something else instead. And then create a new goals list for this coming year. And just really, really enjoyable.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, I always feel like it just brings us that much closer together.
Yes, it does.
Highly recommend it to y'all.
Yes, I would.
And if your city has a food tour, man, do it. Or if you go on vacation, look for a food tour. Highly recommend that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Now, what are we talking about today? What is the title of our episode?
Yes, so this is Avoiding the Four Horsemen in Your Marriage. So in the Bible, in the book of Revelations, it talks about the four horsemen in reference to the end times and how, the world as we know, it's coming to an end. That's the four horsemen. And so
Jesus is coming back.
And Jesus is coming back.
He's on one of the horses, right? I believe so.
I'm staring blankly at my husband because I am unfamiliar with the book of Revelation, but
keep going.
I'm going to continue going. I've lost my train of thought. So we are not going to talk about the book of Revelation, though, but we are going to talk about the four horsemen in relationship to your marriage. And if these four horsemen are present in your marriage, this is really a big part of the downfall of your marriage, kind of like the demise, the end times, if you will, if these things are present in your marriage. And so we're going to go over those and maybe, and then also look at the flip side of that, of like something to do instead. And all of this is based on communication.
Yeah. And I can give you a little background on what the four horsemen are. This is a phrase coined, in marriage communication by someone named John Gottman. He and his wife, Julie, famous couples researchers, reviewed couples, watched couples have communication for over 40 years. And I'm actually trained in that method of couples therapy, and I work with couples in my practice when it comes to Gottman Method Couples Therapy. John Gottman is called the Einstein of Love, and again, he's kind of gotten things down to a science when it comes to marriage communication. And he noticed that he and his team would record couples. They would come to what was called the apartment lab that he had set up. He had cameras all over the place. The couples knew that these cameras were set up, and they knew that they were being filmed. And I think the media referred to it as the Love Lab. It sounds a little bit more, I guess, sexy, called the Love Lab as opposed to the apartment lab. But he noticed over the years he and his team would review the videos of these couples having or communicating with each other, and then he would also ask them about their marriage satisfaction. And he started putting together the ways in which these couples talked and their marriage satisfaction. There seemed to be pretty clear indications that healthy couples communicated in such a way that the Four Horsemen were either very limited in their presence, or maybe they weren't there at all. And couples that were reporting like limited marriage satisfaction and just not very happy, that levels of the Four Horsemen were pretty high and pretty prevalent in their relationship. And so that's sort of, again, a little bit of the background. And we're going to Heather and I are going to talk about these Four Horsemen in just a minute. And really the goal here, for the most part, with at least 3 of them, is just to reduce them coming up. You're not going to completely eliminate them. You're a human. Now, we will say one of the 4, and when we get to that one, it'll be the last one. That's the one that I would suggest that you try to get rid of completely. But with that, we're going to start with the first of the Four Horsemen. And I think that is you, Heather, right? You're going to talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah, the first one is criticism. And, if you think about it, none of us like to be criticized by our boss, by our best friends, by our parents. We don't want to be criticized by our children, really by anyone. But yet we can be so quick to throw out critical words that are hurting and cutting to those people that we love. And when you're criticizing someone, really you're attacking their character rather than addressing the specific behavior that is not good in your eyes. And this negative communication, it tears your spouse down. It creates a very hostile environment. Trust is just really eroded away, and it just ruins your emotional connection with each other, because you kind of live on the defensive of Brian's criticizing me all the time. I expect that he's going to, so why should I try harder? I can do no right. All I do is wrong, that kind of a thing. And so it really just starts to erode your emotional connection with each other, and if I think about, like, if we have friends coming over to our house, we did the other night, I need Brian to help me out. And so he's over there watching sports. And so do I go to him with my hands on my hips, very angry, and say, dude, can't you get up and help me, please? I mean, I said, please, but was that a nice way to say that?
Didn't sound like it.
So, and then I follow up, you're always watching TV, or sports. You're so lazy. There's the attack. There's the criticism on his character, saying that he's lazy, and saying things like, you're always lazy. Those kind of words that we need to remove from our vocabulary. But yeah, his response, Brian, what would your response be if I did that?
It certainly wouldn't be, oh, sure, yeah,
Happy to help.
That's very encouraging. Thank you very much. No, it's going to be, and I'll talk about my response in a little bit, because that'll be the second of the Four Horsemen. So
yeah. So, really think of it as kind of like an antidote to criticism. Is just expressing concerns using I statements. And focusing on the behaviors, not, or the actions, rather than just, making those accusations and blanket statements of you always, you never, and things like that. And so maybe a better way would be, hey, Brian, we've got friends coming over for dinner tomorrow night, and, the house really could use a lot of, kind of reorganizing, picking up, dusting, vacuuming. is now a good time? Like, can we go ahead and work on this together?
Yeah.
So
And
go ahead.
I was just going to say too, like after the fact, if you weren't happy with what I did before, coming to me in a way that you're not criticizing might be something like, it just really upsets me when we have company coming over and we're both not pitching in and helping out. The next time this happens, would you mind helping out more or something?
Yeah.
Rather than, every time, it's always and never.
Right.
Every time we have a get together, this is what you do, and you did it again.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah. So I really hope that you all are understanding and hearing our words in this and picking up on our tones, that as I'm saying these things, either the right way or the wrong way. And, I don't want to beat you up over it if you are the one that's coming in and attacking or something. I just really want to bring it to your attention that like, hey, that's really going to put the other person off and shut them down. And so there's ways that we can work around that. And I think that, we want to just frame the way that we say things in a much kinder way, a more, I think, inclusive way, and just really show appreciation to the other person if they are, starting to, I guess, step up a little bit in some things, within your marriage rather than like criticizing them.
Yeah, our words should be seasoned with grace.
Yes. I think you want to foster understanding. You want to have open communication with each other. You want it to be healthy and you want your communication to be constructive. And I think it's important to affirm each other. So when Brian does help me out with, prepping the house for company coming over, I really need to tell him how much I appreciate it. Not like, oh, well, he knows I appreciate it. No, that's a bad attitude, honestly. And even more so than, thanks, appreciate it. Like, that's just so flippant, so offhanded. Like, how about something like, I really appreciate you coming to help me to get everything ready. I just really felt like this was a good team effort, and I love what you did. You did a great job, and so thank you so much. And I want us to keep working together in this way, like a team. So yeah, listeners, I really hope that you're hearing our heart in this, and that there's better ways of doing this, and they don't come naturally sometimes. I will say that they don't come naturally, and so you have to kind of learn new ways to speak with each other. And I do want to bring up a scripture verse. This is Ephesians 4:29. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. So again, like Brian mentioned, grace. Let that grace be on our tongue, with each other. God has grace with us. We need to have grace with the people that we love as well. We want to build each other up, and yeah.
Yep.
Let's watch that criticism.
That's good.
Yep. Brian, what have you got?
So a lot of times what happens when we are criticized, then the second of the Four Horsemen tends to show up, and that is called defensiveness. And I will say it's not always the case, but I find a lot of times in my counseling practice and in our marriage mentoring that women tend to criticize more. Men seem to have cornered the market on being defensive. And so if you're a man listening to this, you're probably your ears will perk up because I'm sure you've probably done this. But there are two ways to be defensive. Number one, you can sort of play the innocent victim. And so when you're criticized, it might be something like, like Heather, if you said, hey, can you help me clean the house? The innocent victim might say something like, I work hard. I work my butt off. In fact, I work more hours than you do. I'm working outside. It's hot. I've not been feeling really good. And that I've had to go over to my mom's a lot lately and take care of her yard. And you just go on and on and on. And it's a big long laundry list of what you're doing.
Yes, it is.
Yes. And so that's the first way to be defensive. Second way to be defensive is I can point something out about you that you're not doing. So, oh, really? You're going to criticize me about the fact that I don't clean up the house? Well, you know what? When was the last time you put gas in your car, I mean,
Never.
right. I think I punched a button there. I'm just kidding. No,
Just
it's
kidding.
fine. But I actually enjoy filling up your gas tank, and we joke
Thank you,
about
babe.
it.
Yes,
Remember
that
the
is actually a
time-
huge family joke because I never fill my tank.
Right. Remember the time that you called to joke? I think this is how it went. You said, "Hey, I'm at the tank. I don't know how to do this," and I said, "Get on YouTube and look at
Yeah.
a video on
Oh,
how to-"
yeah. Oh, it was
or
hilarious.
something." Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, that was
We
funny.
totally
So-
took a sidebar there.
Yeah, we did.
He is
but
gracious and loving, and when we are in our car on the weekends, he will always fill my tank. So yes, it is a big joke that I don't know how to fill a gas tank. Our daughter
Yeah.
even said that about me.
yeah.
Okay, carry on.
So the
Defensiveness.
solution to defensiveness is just to take responsibility. You don't have to take full responsibility if you don't want to or you don't feel like it's necessary, but just even a little bit, and it, again, taking responsibility might look something like, yeah, I'll take care of that. Or it could be, if your spouse is upset about something you're doing, just simply saying, you know what, you're all right. I do have a tendency to do that. And that's something I need to work on. That's easier said than done. I know, because at least for me, sometimes when I'm saying those things, I'm also hearing a voice inside of me that's saying, you didn't do this right. You don't measure up. You're no good. And of course, who wants to hear that voice? So a lot of times we won't take responsibility.
Right.
And we'll just continue to deflect it because we don't want to hear that nasty negative voice that's going on inside of us. But as much as you can, just try to push through that.
Is it fair to say that pride is connected to defensiveness?
Oh, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that's another layer there that we have to really work on, and on humility and just to be able to say, yeah, you're right. I'm getting a little offensive or
Right.
have a little edge to me right now. And yeah.
And the opposite of what pride is probably
Humility.
humility, right? Being
Yeah.
humble. And again, it's not about a winner or loser. It's not about that I'm not any good or I don't do what I say I'm going to do. It's just about, you know what? Yeah, that's something I'm going to work on. And I would point you to Proverbs 15:1. This sounds a little bit like it could be more applicable to criticism, but I think it will. I think when we're defensive, we can also be this way. But it says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And so what that means is it's saying that your answer back to your spouse for what they need, what they want, if it's gentle, a lot of times you're going to notice the conversation just kind of come down, the emotions. It's going to, I guess, just reduce.
De-escalate.
De-escalate. Thank you.
Like that
was a
word?
much better word. That was perfect. All right. That is the second of the Four Horsemen. What's a third?
Yeah, so the third one is stonewalling. And I think that's something that I've struggled with, in my life. And by what I mean by stonewalling is shutting down. I just stop talking. I'm like, I have nothing left to say because I feel like if I do say something, I'm going to be wrong, or I'm not going to be listened to. And so why say anything at all? And, truth be told, that's happened in our marriage, in our arguments. I know, shock and awe. We've argued, but it has happened. And I would say it happened a lot more probably in the beginning of our marriage. But, and occasionally sometimes it can happen now, and it's built upon like, am I being defensive? Do I feel like I'm being criticized? All of this kind of builds up to where the person eventually stonewalls the communication from even happening. You just emotionally withdraw from that conversation. Or you might just walk away and say, I'm done, going upstairs, I'm not talking to you about it anymore. So walking away is more like, I feel like that's more of like an abrupt physical way of stonewalling versus like, I'm done talking. Like,
yeah,
you know,
right. And I don't know if you would agree with this, but I feel like you and I will do the stonewalling. I think you tend to do the more just quiet shut
I get
down.
quiet shut down.
When I do it, I tend to turn tail and want to walk away and go upstairs.
And when you do that, I say, really? Is that the way that we should be communicating?
Right.
You just walk away from this?
Right.
And that's probably not the best way to say that either. So, you know, as we sit over here on our sides of the microphone and, you know, and pretend to know what we're doing, just know that we're real people too.
Oh, yeah.
We're real people, and we continue to grow and mature and change and evolve and become better spouses in our marriage, better spouses for each other. And so, yeah, we've got a few things figured out, but you know, there's always room for growth. So we appreciate y'all's grace as you listen to this saying, oh my gosh, what's wrong with them? But yes. Okay. So back to stonewalling. It really, you just become so disconnected because the conversation stops, the problem solving stops. And you just, your partner feels unheard and disconnected. So, a scripture I want to share in Matthew 18:15 says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. So yes, we need to do that. But again, I always want to go back to there's a way that we say these things to each other. And it is okay for you to go to the other person if there is something that needs to be said. So with the stonewalling, it takes practice, I think, to engage into some kind of calming techniques like taking a deep breath, or to just look at your spouse and say, hey, we are a little red hot right now. This is obviously a hot button issue for us. And I think that we both need to just go our separate ways for a few moments, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. I need to go for a walk. I need to go journal, read my Bible. I need to process through what's happening because I think everybody needs to take a moment to process. And then let's come back together and let's talk about it in a better, healthier way.
And usually I will say the person that's walking away, usually the person that's left behind maybe needs a little bit of reassurance. Like, you know, it could be something like, I know I'm walking away. I'm just doing this to cool off. I do love you. I want you to know that.
Right.
But like, I'm hot, you're hot. Yeah.
Right. And for me, when I just emotionally and verbally shut down and just refuse to talk, it would be better for me to say, you know what? This is too red hot right now. I just need time to process. So let's take a break, and why don't we re-engage again in like 15 minutes, and then I can go and sort of calm down. And
or if it were me, it would be like 2 minutes. But yeah, that's not long enough.
No.
I will say real quick, I learned this with my Gottman training is that I think he says it takes about 20 minutes for your body to calm itself when it's elevated and the pulse is up. So yeah, but yeah, to your point, I think you said 15. That's close.
Yeah.
So my response, I can't be like, give me a minute, let me go get a drink of water and give me 60 seconds and I'll come back. That's probably not going to work.
Right. Because I mean, physically our bodies are going through these emotional changes of just the blood boiling. Like we feel it, y'all. You are shaking your head, nodding your heads. Yes, we feel it when we get that upset.
My face gets flushed.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Our heart rate is pulsing, and we do literally need to calm ourselves down, whether that's listening to some gentle, soft music or reading or praying or just going for a walk. Do something to calm yourselves down, come back together. And then, you know, I would say pray. God, please help us have a constructive discussion to solve this problem, whatever it may be, so that you can rebuild these bridges that are getting, you know, basically burned, and recreate this emotional connection that you have in your marriage. So, you know, I think that the takeaway that I want to leave for you there is like, take a breath and just remain open with each other so that you can reduce that stonewalling that can happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have a Bible passage, or did you already say that and I missed it?
I did.
You did? Oh,
I did. No.
Okay.
Strike one.
See, I think what happened there was I was probably thinking about something I wanted to say, and then I wasn't doing my active listening, which is another. Maybe we'll do a podcast episode on that if we haven't already down the road. Okay.
What's next?
The final of the Four Horsemen is called contempt. This is the worst one. This is the one that I would tell you to remove completely. When I work with couples and we talk about the Four Horsemen, pretty much 100% of the couples that we work with will say that they do the first three. There's only a percentage that when I ask them about contempt that will do that one. There's a percentage of couples that do not do that one. I don't, and Heather, as we talk about this one, I don't think that we do this one. But if you're listening and you do it, it's okay. There's no judgment. We're just going to work on getting this out of your communication. But contempt, again, it's the most toxic of the Four Horsemen. It kind of comes from a place of superiority. So you might just be getting so frustrated, so irritated that your spouse isn't listening to you. All of a sudden you decide, you know what? I'm going to call you a name. You blankety blank. Or I've had some people say, well, I didn't actually call my spouse a name. I just said, stop acting like a blankety blank. And I tell people, you're basically saying the same thing.
That's true.
You're just sort of hiding behind that. Well, I didn't directly call them that. I just said to stop acting like that. So it is. It's very hostile. It's very negative. It's just very biting. It's caustic. It's toxic. But what it's communicating is it's communicating to your spouse, you know what? I'm kind of up here. I'm putting myself, my hands up on like a pedestal, and you're down here, and I've got my hands about 3 feet lower. And I think that it also probably makes you feel like you're about 2 inches tall. And to some regard, I mean, it's not proper, it's not appropriate, but I get why it happens. It happens because we're frustrated. We're like, I don't feel like you're listening. You're not getting it. It's the same thing over and over again. You know what? Maybe if I call you a name, maybe you'll snap out of it and realize, oh, you know what? You're right. I am acting that way, or I am that. No. Of course not.
No, I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, it's like with the criticism you talked about earlier.
Right.
When you said, if I criticize you, how would you react? Well, not very well. So, yeah, contempt is the fourth one. Again, I can't reiterate enough. Get rid of that one as much as you can. The antidote for contempt is to assume positive intent as much as you can. I don't think, unless you're in a really awful marriage, I think most of the time our spouses are just doing the best that they can. They're not out there to get you. They're not specifically doing something. Like, for example, if you, Heather, were sitting and having dinner and both of our glasses are empty and I see you get up and refill your drink, you're not thinking about me. It's just whatever. You just decided I was thirsty and I'm going to go get myself a drink. But if I think, you know what, she purposely got up and didn't ask me if I wanted my drink. Well, I can't believe this. What's she doing? So I'm not assuming positive intent. Positive intent might be something like, I know she's busy. She's got a lot on her mind. She's thinking about a lot. That's probably why she didn't offer to get my drink. So, yeah.
Right.
So that is contempt. I will leave you with a Bible passage. This is one of my favorite books of the Bible. It's in Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. It says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others, embracing humility and mutual respect. And I will say, actually, in the marriage conference that you and I are doing, the section on humility, that is actually our main verse, if you will.
Yes, it is.
So, yes. That is a very important one. So that is the last of the Four Horsemen. So I would just encourage you, as you've listened to this and you want to start to work on these things, that just know that these are important. You're gonna fail. You're gonna fall down, but it's okay. But now that you know about them, you can be more aware of them and maybe point them out a little bit. And you could even, just have a little bit of fun with it. And you might say, we're getting into that criticism, defensiveness loop with each other, aren't we?
Right. I think that the more you understand the kind of negative things that happen in communication, the more aware you are when they happen. And
Right.
you can make that decisive change. Like, we're going to change this. We're going to change the way we're talking to each other. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
like, I was just thinking about real quick stonewalling. It's like, as you're doing it, now that we've talked about it, you might recognize when you start to get quiet or when you look down or you start to march out of the room, just realize, oh yeah, I'm doing that stonewalling thing, aren't I? And you maybe even want to say it. I think it looks like I'm stonewalling, right? And,
Right.
obviously just calling it out sometimes can help. So,
Right.
well, we hope this has helped you. I think before we go, you got some resources and things you want to talk about. Is that right?
Yes. So we do have our date night ideas that are on the website, because we do want you to stay connected with each other by going out on dates. And so sometimes we get stuck in that rut of like, what's going to be good? What's going to be fun? All right, let's go to dinner and a movie, except that you're not really talking to each other when you're watching a movie. And, so the date night ideas are just some other types of activities that you could do. And everything comes with some sort of a question and answer sort of thing to spark some interesting, fun conversations. So spend that quality time together, and continue to strengthen your connection with each other. And so there are lots of free date night ideas there. There's also 10 practical communication strategies. So this guide is designed to help you as a couple have more effective communication and connecting conversations. So we definitely hope that you will check those out, print them off, use them, let us know. Reach out to us. Let us know what you've tried and what you liked, what worked well. And and I think that is all we have for you today. So we really appreciate you listening and just using the the things that we're suggesting, especially God's word, to strengthen your marriage. And we just appreciate your time. Thanks so much.